And joining me now from San Francisco is Alexander Nazaryan. He's a senior writer on national affairs for Newsweek Magazine and interviewed Steve Bannon for this week's cover story. Alexander Nazaryan, thank you so much for being with us. You will have heard my colleague there, Diane Estabrook, and obviously also the interview or the press conference with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, where she effectively says that this book is full of falsehoods and full of inaccuracies. Now, in your own interview, you did find a discrepancy where Steve Bannon tells you that he spoke on the phone to Trump for 30 minutes on the day of the Alabama election, when actually White House call logs suggest it was just 9 minutes. So there's a discrepancy right there. Ultimately, how reliable do you think a lot of the things Steve Bannon will have said on this book are?
That's an excellent question, and frankly, at this point, it's impossible to answer. Let's also be clear that some people have accused the author, Michael Wolff, of exaggerating. And I don't just mean Sarah Sanders in the White House press briefing. That accusation has been around since his book on Rupert Murdoch. And so that's not to say that there's anything in this book untrue. I don't know that. But I did speak to one person who's in the book, and he said, yes, I probably did say some of these things. I don't know. I would express some caution about the reporting just because of Mr. Wolff's reputation, but he obviously spent a very large amount of time with Mr. Bannon and with other White House staffers. So there's probably some fairly good reporting here, right? I mean, 18 months is a very long time to spend on inside the West Wing. Nobody is granted that kind of access. And, the rest of us are very jealous of Mr. Wolff. The accuracy we can't speak to at this point, but clearly the reaction of the White House suggests that some of this is true.
And it's quite interesting as well in the reaction of the White House, how they're trying to distance themselves, obviously, from Steve Bannon. But how crucial do you think he has been in the White House in the time that he was there?
He will say that he was involved, and he did say to me that he was involved in every major decision, but that he did not like being a staffer. People inside the White House have told me and have told other reporters that he inflated his role and continues to inflate it. So there you have some of the discrepancy that you just alluded to. I think he is a dangerous enemy even more than he's a useful ally. I don't think President Trump can alienate Steve Bannon fully, even if he will no longer embrace him the way he once did.
Another interesting bit in your interview with Steve Bannon is where you basically try to understand why he's doing, and you say he hasn't attempted to trade on his association with the president for personal profit like others have done. So why do you think Bannon is acting the way he is? Because he must have known that there would be this huge fallout from the book and the things that he was telling the author.
You know, I asked him this question yesterday, and he did not answer. He has not been especially loquacious in the last couple of days, though usually he has a group of reporters, of journalists that he does talk to. That's a very difficult question. You know, my sense is that he is terrified of what Robert Mueller, the special counsel, is going to come up with, and he is pointing to Jared Kushner and Donald Trump Jr. specifically and saying, these guys are in real trouble. He's sending out sort of almost flares, maybe even messages to President Trump saying, these are the guys you better, you have to, including your son, that they could be in real trouble. Why do that in a book like this and in such explosive language? I don't know. I don't think Steve Bannon really worries about what he says. I don't think he's out there to make friends, to make money. He doesn't want the former, and he has plenty of the latter. I think this is for his ideas, and his ideas are bigger than Steve Bannon, according to Steve Bannon, and bigger even than Donald Trump. So he's willing to burn any bridge in order to get where he needs where he believes the country needs to go. Now, of course, it's impossible to do that if you have no political allies, and that's the problem he's facing right now.
I mean, you mentioned that basically what drives him are his ideas. I mean, are those ideas now compatible with Donald Trump? I mean, I know they're having a very public international spat right now, but do you think that ultimately he will keep on supporting a Trump presidency?
Yes, I believe that his support for the Trump presidency remains, even as he is acutely worried that if the Democrats gain control of the House, as many people think they can, they will initiate proceedings to have President Trump removed from office. I believe he's worried for the Trump presidency, but he remains fundamentally loyal to President Trump because he is the best vessel out there for him to carry out his ideas. If Jeb Bush were president, Bannonism would just be a blog post on Breitbart News. Right now, it's the governing philosophy of the United States, more or less. I'm sure Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan wish it were less, but the fact of the matter is Bannonism holds sway, and I don't think Steve Bannon wants to forsake that.
Alexander Nazaryan, senior writer on national affairs for Newsweek Magazine, who, of course, interviewed Steve Bannon for this week's cover story. Thank you so much for your time.